Hey everyone. All right, so in case you didn't already know, I recently had the biggest loss of my trading career. And that really shook me up a little bit. And so what I decided to do here today is bring you in behind the scenes for a one-on-one mentor session with me and Ted. And Ted has been my trading coach now for, about 9 years.
That's about right, yeah.
And you've seen me go through, certainly ups and downs in my trading career. I mean, it started with a lot of downs before it finally turned around. But what's interesting is that in these last 2 weeks, what I've gone through in terms of dollar amount loss are the largest losses that I've ever had.
Right.
In a period of about a week and a half, I lost just under $50,000. And this is all in the context of me trying to take this $583 account and turn it into $1 million. And what I never would have expected, and what I just couldn't predict, was that the hardest part would be the last 5%.
Right.
The starting, when I started January 1st, 2017, initially I started out with this $583 account thinking that I might blow it up. I might blow it up and I might have to start over, and that's part of the journey. Now, the previous small account journeys that I had done, I always promoted them or disclosed them or posted the video of them after the fact. I felt like it was too much pressure to say, I'm starting with $1,000 and my goal is to turn it into $15,000 this month, and just to do that in front of all these people. But with a $583 challenge, I did it in front of everyone.
Right.
January 1st, 2017, I was like, okay guys, funded the account $583. This is day one. 100K is the first target. And in those first couple days, I followed my rules. I traded really well, and in fact, in the first month, my accuracy was like 90%. I was doing everything right, following the rules, trading the best, leaving the rest. I was being aggressive, but I was being aggressive on the right stocks,
Yeah.
which is basically like what we talk about in that kind of flow state of, a surfer or a race car driver. It's not about not being aggressive. It's
Right.
about knowing this is the time to pedal to the metal and be aggressive, and this is the time there's water on the track. You guys slow down or you're going to wipe out. And it just connected, and I hit 100K in 45 days. And then that's when I said, this is now the $1 million challenge. I'm going to do it 10 more times. And if it took 3 months, then doing it 10 times is going to take 30 months. That's whatever, 2.5 years or something like that, 3 years. And so here we are. Now I'm at about $950,000. And the day I had my $30,000 red day, I was at $992,000, and I was already up $2,600 on the day. So, so I was like $5,000 away
Right.
from crossing the line. And I lost my focus, I lost my center, and the trade that knocked me down so badly was not a great quality trade. If I go back to my criteria of the 5 criteria for a stock to be in play, the flow, the news, the daily setup, former runner status, above average volume, it really didn't have any of those except that the float was kind of on the low side.
Right.
And so it was like, why did I swing so big on that trade? And this is kind of, one of the things I was thinking about in the days after. I think we had a one-on-one session like 2 days later.
Yeah.
And I talked about tightrope walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, for whatever reason, this popped into my mind of setting a goal of trying to tightrope across the Grand Canyon. Has someone done that before? Is that why maybe it was in my mind?
I don't know if they've done the Grand Canyon, but I've seen images of somebody tightroping a canyon. I don't know if it was the Grand Canyon.
So
yes.
This is going to be my public announcement. When I finish this challenge, I'm going to try a tightrope walk the Grand Canyon. So that's coming next. But I sort of had this vision of someone who's good at tightrope walking, whatever. The first 5-10 steps, okay, I'm getting out there, I'm really doing it. Next thing you know, they're 100 feet in, 200 feet in. All right, I'm in this thing, I'm in the challenge. There's no turning back, I'm in it. And let's presume this person does have like a tether. They're not going to follow their death. They're protected, they're safe, which is the same as me in the challenge. If I do fall, it's okay, I can get back up. And all of a sudden it's like halfway mark. For me, I stopped even thinking about where I was relative to $1 million because it was so far away that I was like, I'm just doing the next 10 feet, the next 10 feet. I'm just doing the next 10 trades, the rest of this month. And I was setting short-term goals, and then all of a sudden at the end of 2018, I was sitting at like $880,000, and I was like, I'm going to do this thing. Like, I'm actually going to do this thing that's really crazy.
Right.
And I started psyching myself out and thinking about it a lot. I started thinking about, when am I going to cross the level? What am I going to do on the day across the level? What kind of video should I make? Like, how do I celebrate this? I started thinking about it a lot. And almost every trading day in early 2019 was, how far away from the level am I?
Right.
It was the countdown. And so now you've got this tightrope walker 50 feet from the finish line. He's just done 2,000 feet, only 50 feet left, and all of a sudden it's like all these emotions of it's real, it's happening. 49 feet, 48 feet, 47 feet, and the pressure is building, and you're out of your center, and you lose your balance. And maybe all of a sudden at 10 feet, instead of finishing, you just try to leap, and you miss. And that's kind of what I tried to do. I tried to just leap, do something that is not following the rules, does not make sense. And sometimes I've seen students comment like, Ross, what were you thinking on this? And I think the truth is, in those moments, I was emotionally hijacked.
Right.
My focus was not the right stock to trade, I was trading the P&L. So what I'm going through here is new in the sense that the last time I experienced this type of thing was like when I was learning to trade.
Right, years ago.
Yeah, and when I was needed to make a certain amount of money each month to pay my bills. And as I've gotten farther and farther away from that, having built up trading profits where it's like, oh, if I have a bad month, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. The pressure's been taken off. But as I think about beginner traders, one of the challenges is, how do you set goals for yourself without allowing those goals to, infiltrate your mental state of mind?
Right.
And then cause you to start making mistakes because you set this goal. Like, I want to set goals and surpass them. I want to be aggressive, but I don't want to start setting goals and then have them, have this sort of negative side effect, which is kind of what I feel like happened.
Well, and so, whether you're a beginning trader or in this situation that you're in now, you can't just get rid of the part of you that is carrying that demand.
Yeah.
There's a part of you that is always going to have, its eye on that goal.
Yeah.
And it's not about, locking that in the basement and throwing away the key.
Yeah.
It's about the relationship you have with it. So knowing that that is a part of you,
Yeah.
knowing that that pressure is there, the goal is there, it's however much you're trying to achieve in a particular month or a particular week or towards the end of a giant, accomplishment like this, that internal pressure to succeed is going to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you allow yourself to slow down, breathe, make room for the part of you that's carrying that demand, even talking to that part of you, and I'm not suggesting that that's going to make you crazy.
Yeah.
But we talk to ourselves all the time anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is consciously relating to the part of you that is really insistent that you cross that finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. I think on that day, I think I just was ready to be done.
Right.
And I was like, I just want to cross this level. And that's different from setting a goal of making $5,000 on a month. But at the same time, what's similar is that when I would have a $5,000 goal, you know what I would do on the first day of the month? I'd try to hit $5,000 so I'd hit the goal and I could just be done.
Because it would take the pressure off.
It takes all the pressure
that
off.
part of you has the message.
Yeah.
that if I can do it right away,
Yeah.
the pressure will be gone and I can
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. And I thought on this I was just gonna smooth sail
Right.
across that line. Like you're just gonna hit that $7,000 winner,
Right.
you're done. And you know, I like to be a believer, and we've talked about this before, and things happen for a reason.
Mhm.
And not own up to the mistake I made, because I
Right.
did make a mistake. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for a lesson. And a lesson that I think I can really only learn on this side
Right.
of that $1 million line.
Mhm.
Because once I cross it, the challenge is done.
Right.
And
right.
sure, maybe I'll set a new goal of 1.5 or 2 or whatever, but this big kind of, you know, event that has been 2.5 years in the making will be done.
Right.
And I wasn't quite ready to cross that line. I needed to learn one more lesson. and this last 5%, no doubt, has been the hardest part of the whole challenge. You know, and right now it's probably the 5% that's going to be stretching the longest period of time, because I got so close and then pulled back, and now I'm in this kind of consolidation
Right.
below that level.
Right, and because how much pressure is there, it almost requires that an equal amount of caution,
Yeah,
because there is such a strong push to just cross it.
yeah,
You know, so even before it reaches conscious level, there's all sorts of messages that are saying, you're almost there, it's just gonna work,
yeah,
forget your rules,
right,
just
yeah,
jump.
sure, yeah. And of course, the worst part in the market is the fact that, you know, sometimes you do get positive reinforcement for
Right.
negative behavior.
Right.
And there were certainly times in the challenge where I took way too much risk, and it ended up working. And that trade probably could have just as easily ended up
Gone
working,
the other way.
crossed the challenge, crossed the line, and then, you know, it would be done. But it didn't. And so having that discipline, you know, makes me think about just that real challenge of coming in every day at your peak.
Right.
So you guys know, who have been following me for a while, that I love to make analogies, and the one that's for sure on my mind is Tom Brady, and how in 2018, you know, we had the 2018 Super Bowl, and it was like the Time versus Tom, you know, that video series that came out. It was all hyping up to, you're gonna win.
Right.
And this is going to be, you know, the big one, and then maybe retire. And then in the moment, the pressure, and you know, things happen, whatever. Didn't end up working out.
Right.
And so then, you know, the rest of 2018 is like, all right, 2019, are we going to go back in for 2019 season? And he did it. He got back in, got back on the horse, and pushed through. And with the pressure to achieve these really big goals, whether it's Super Bowl, which for Tom Brady is a huge goal, or it's to make $5,000 a month so you don't ever have to have a boss ever again, right? That's a big goal for you, just as big as it would be for, you know, for the Super Bowl for Tom. It's the difference between a happy life and maybe not so happy.
Right.
That because the pressure is so high, you have to meet that pressure with an equal amount of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's so hard with trading is that, you know, of course, negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement, negative behavior, certainly, but also the fact that, you know, you can wake up half asleep, open your laptop, open your trading platform, and start taking trades.
Right.
And when you do that, what you're doing, every time you come into the market, you're coming into the market, and in a lot of ways, you're trading against the market. You're trading against some of the best traders out there,
Mm-hmm.
far better than me, certainly. You're trading against some of the best computer algorithms out there,
Right.
better than any of us collectively. And, you know, you're trading volatility, and all of that comes with risk. And if you don't bring your 100% A game each morning, then the likelihood of giving in to that urge to hold a loser a little too long, which I've done more than once,
Right.
or to jump into a trade with FOMO, I think that your threshold for, where you'll go ahead and just do it becomes a lot lower. I kind of think each morning when I come into the market, I have a tank of emotional composure. And some days I come in with a half tank.
Right.
For whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every day that I was coming in through the month of March, I was coming in with a half tank because I had just so much pressure on myself that it was clouding my judgment. Similarly, sometimes when students will trade when they're on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, I've got my laptop, I can trade. And then on vacation, because they're in a different environment and stuff like that, they end up having a huge loss. And I've done it. And then it kind of ruins your vacation. You get all in your head about, oh man, I just need to have one more green trade and that's going to make this whole week so much better. And then it can snowball. And what was supposed to be a great vacation turns into 3 or 4 huge red days. And
Worst memory of the year.
And the worst memory of the year, right. So you've given into all those emotions.
And so things like persistent patience.
Mm.
And the reason I put those two words together, because persistence is all about discipline, focus, perseverance.
Yeah.
But matching that with more of a calm, relaxed patience. Thinking about like the surfers that are waiting for the wave, to happen.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention,
Right.
well, here comes the wave and it just knocked you off your board
Right.
before you even
Right.
got up to
Yeah.
to serve. And having that discipline, to wake up in the morning, to follow a routine, to remember your rules, to let everything else fade away, so that you stay very present in the moment of the trade that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And, like talking about, trying to trade when going and doing something like vacation,
Yeah.
or, when other circumstances are interrupting your routine,
Yeah.
it just simply doesn't work.
Right.
And the more you do that, the more likely you're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think in terms of approaching each day with that discipline, one of the challenges is how, for me, when I feel that pressure, and I feel that whatever it is, or maybe I come into the day with, a half tank because I had a bad morning, how do I maintain the presence of mind that in real time I stop myself? Because that's the challenge, is afterwards I'm like, what was I thinking? And the damage is done.
Mm-hmm.
And in real time, it's like, at what point have I, what is the point of no return? It's like setting rules in some way to help prevent me from having that final trade that's going to be the one that unwinds.
Right. A big part of that is paying attention to and checking in with yourself on how you're starting the day.
Yeah.
If you're already starting the day with a ton of stuff on your plate, whether that's you have, a fight with somebody in your family,
Yeah.
You have a deadline outside of trading that's sitting on top of you, or it's the Final Four and
Yeah.
you're thinking about, the game coming up.
Yeah.
One of the most important decisions you can make is when you say, you know what, I'm not in a good place to trade today.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think I can actually trust myself
Mm.
today.
Mm.
Check in with yourself the next day,
Yeah.
and it might be a completely different story.
Something that makes me think about is, and I don't know if this would work, but at the beginning of each day saying, all right, Ross, you're looking great today, as usual. But, emotionally I'm feeling a little off. So I'm feeling
Right.
stress, I'm feeling pressure. Today's a day where I'm only going to take 2,000 shares. And normally for me, I'm taking 9,000, 12,000, sometimes 15, 24,000 on the trade that I totally blew up.
Right.
So to say at 2,000 shares, that would be almost like vacation trading size.
Mhm.
Hey, if I can make a little bit of money, that's great.
Right.
But I'm not going to put myself in a position where with 2,000 shares suddenly I'm down huge and I'm going to get emotional and impulsive and start revenge trading.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the day saying, this is the type of day that is appropriate for me to be trading with not more than 5,000 shares or 2,000, and setting that as my max size for the day.
Right.
In theory, that's great. My problem is that when I do that, and then I see a stock that's really strong, I have a tendency to say, forget it. This is a great opportunity. These only might come along once a week or once a month, who
Right.
knows?
Mm-hmm.
I can't miss it. I don't want to trade this huge opportunity with only 2,000 shares, and so then I go in and I override it. And of
Right.
course, the market sometimes rewards that, and sometimes
And sometimes it doesn't.
it punishes that.
Well, and it's so easy to get caught in that idea that this one trade
Yeah,
is the trade.
yeah.
So FOMO, it's all about that.
Yeah, it feels that way a lot of
Right.
times.
But that reminder of you're not just trading one trade. When becoming a trader, it's the whole trajectory of a career.
Yeah, yeah,
A surfer never surfs just one wave.
right.
It's the countless waves.
Yeah,
And they will come and go.
yeah,
Some are going to be better than others. And the more you just pay attention to that,
right.
If you miss one trade, it really is no big deal.
Yeah. And it's true. And I say that. And yet in practice, I can lose sight of that because
Right.
I think I feel so driven to achieve these goals or these metrics or whatever it is that I'll just say, no, I'm just gonna throw it out the window and go for this
Right.
big push.
But then there's that part of you that, that says, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about your rules. I don't care
Yeah.
about what some other part of you knows is good for you.
Yeah.
So within yourself, as we're sitting here,
Yeah.
as we've often done,
Yeah.
see if you can just tune in to the part of you that could care less about your rules.
I think that part of me is impulsive, impatient, aggressive, and has no sense of risk.
Right.
And when that part of me takes over, that's when things can get crazy.
Yes, they can.
Both to the upside and the downside. And I've noticed, working with thousands of students, that there's this sort of spectrum that we're all on.
Right.
And there's traders like me that I would say are on the aggressive side.
Mhm.
And the biggest challenge with aggressive traders is, can we rein you back enough to only trade the best quality setups?
Right.
Because aggressive traders will sometimes trade 6 hours a day. And they'll trade right up until 4 p.m. and then start looking at after hours movers. And it's just trade after trade after trade. And sometimes every trade seems like equal opportunity. There's no sense of, well, trades are usually better in the morning or trades are usually better in these contexts. It's just super aggressive.
Right.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have students who are so afraid of pressing the buy button that they're paralyzed, and they might go weeks without taking a trade because it
Just wasn't quite there.
doesn't look perfect.
Right.
And with those students, we've got to encourage them to be okay with having losses, and okay with being a little more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at either end of the extreme, you will not be profitable. You're
Right.
either not trading, or you're trading so much you're losing money.
Well, and that goes back to that analogy of the tightrope walker. If you ever watch them, they're not just walking on a tightrope. They have this really long bar
Yeah, they do.
that they're carrying as they go,
Yeah,
and that bar is actually extending in both directions. Is what allows them to find balance at the center.
mm.
So, in coming into what we're talking about in trading, between caution and aggression,
Yeah,
you have to extend in both directions.
Yeah.
You have to
You do.
feel the place of caution, and the place of being aggressive,
Yeah.
and find, where is that center point
Yeah.
for the trade you're in right now.
Right. And to carry on with that analogy, say you've got a strong westerly wind, you
Right.
may need to tip a little more one way or a little more the other way.
Exactly.
With trading, when momentum is really hot, that is the time to be more aggressive.
Right.
And that is the right decision, because the momentum in the market is cyclical. It's cycles of hot and cold.
Right.
And if you're not being aggressive when it's hot, you're really minimizing what you could potentially be making.
Exactly.
And then during the cold cycle, if you're not easing off the throttle, you're just going to be, you're
Throwing money away.
throwing money away, really. And
Right.
so you have to be able, and this is, just the way a cyclist is, or a motorcycle is adjusting the throttle to changing conditions.
Mhm.
As a trader with our strategy, we
Right.
have to adjust risk tolerance to the changing conditions. I've had a student who asked, Ross, if you're right 69% of the time over 3,000 trades, looking at my metrics, then why don't you just take every trade with 10,000 shares and stop overcomplicating it? The problem, on the one hand,
Legitimate question.
it's a legitimate question,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't be maximizing on the ups.
Right.
Because on the ups, I could be going so much further up, I'd be more aggressive. And I wouldn't be minimizing on the downs.
Right.
Because on the downs, I could minimize the loss by being more conservative. And so that's where, ultimately, that's probably like the highest level of trading, one that sometimes I even struggle to maintain. The ability to adapt to the market that's in front of you.
Exactly.
And to, in fact, trade the market,
Mhm.
not your P&L.
Right.
Not the day of the week, where you're at on the month, where you're at on some arbitrary challenge that the market does not care about.
Exactly.
And that's the highest level of trading you can get to. And that's something that I'm only kind of learning at the very end of this 2.5-year challenge.
Mhm.
That ultimately being a successful trader, as much as possible, is letting yourself come into the market each day and putting your bags aside.
Right.
And maybe acknowledging that I'm coming in today with a half tank. And so I'm going to respond to that, but I'm going to trade the market that's right in front of me
Right.
and try to really embrace that mentality. And it's not going to come naturally because I still struggle with it. But I think getting to that state should be the probably ultimate goal of any trader.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we put together a set of rules to help you guys gain more emotional control over your trading. As you at this point probably realize, trading is just about 50% skill and 50% emotion. All right, so why don't you guys start with rule number 1?
First rule I would say is start to practice a little bit of mindfulness.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about mindfulness and its importance with something like trading,
Yeah.
and it's very true. If we're not aware of what is going on inside of us or
Yep.
what's going on around us,
hmm
bad things tend to happen.
Yep. You can't trade in tunnel vision or in a
Right.
bubble. Yeah.
So one of my favorite writers, who is a mindfulness-based psychologist, Jack Kornfield, has an acronym called BRAIN,
Okay.
which is recognition, acceptance,
Okay.
investigation or inquiry, whichever one people like to use.
Okay.
And the last one is non-attachment.
Okay.
So that first part
Mm.
of actually slowing down and recognizing
hmm
what it is that's happening,
Yeah.
what's happening around you, what's happening inside of you,
Right.
and meeting whatever that is with acceptance.
Yeah.
And so acceptance on this level is not about whether or not something is good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just acceptance of what is,
Right.
reality as it is.
Okay.
And then investigation or inquiry, what is this all about?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
Yeah.
What's driving,
From a neutral, non-emotional
right,
standpoint.
which leads into non-attachment,
Mm.
which is the ability to step back and not get so caught up in the thing that's unfolding.
Yeah. So as it pertains to trading, if I'm looking at a gap scanner in the morning
Mhm.
and I recognize that the gap scanner has nothing on it, which instinctually for me I'm going to think is bad,
Mhm.
but I need to just accept that because
Right.
I can't change that.
Right.
It just is as it is. And then the inquiry or investigation side, I could ask myself what's happening in the overall market, what's causing this condition, are we in a cycle of really slow momentum, or is this just an anomaly? And then at the end, I guess non-attachment, let it be as it is.
Exactly. You can't force the market to be other than it is
Yeah.
on any given day.
Yeah.
It's just acceptance.
So one of the things as an extension to this rule on mindfulness that I really encourage all of my students to do is to journal while you're trading. And so journaling can take the form, at least for me, as using my Excel doc. So as I'm updating each trade of, where I got in, where I got out, how much I made or lost, I'll have a column where I note my emotional composure prior to entering the trade.
Right.
And most trades are a 2, a 1, a 3, a 4, maybe. But the days that I go big red, I'll often see that before the loss, I was escalating emotionally. I was going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I just did one of these trades. It's a Hail Mary pass. And of course, the worst thing with Hail Marys is sometimes they work, but I just do this crazy Hail Mary pass, and it was totally emotionally impulsive.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Well, so the same is true for our emotions.
Mm.
Turning inward, recognizing, what am I actually feeling?
Yeah.
Not all the thoughts around the feeling, but the name of the emotion itself.
Right.
Recognizing I'm angry,
Yeah.
and then accepting that that's there.
Yeah.
And then that inquiry or investigation, what's driving this emotion up to the surface?
Right.
And the non-attachment, stepping back, turning towards, meeting with compassion, acceptance, even kindness,
Yeah.
the emotion as it's sitting with us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big one. It's an easy one to overlook, thinking, well, learning to trade is about reading level 2 and entering your trades. And that's the mechanical part of learning, but the emotional part is just as important.
Right. And often when those emotions get really big, the first thing to go
Yeah.
is, I don't have time to
For
be
sure.
mindful.
Yeah.
And so we start, emotional logic takes over,
Yeah.
which is not very logical.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
Right.
So the second rule would be, or the second tip would be to have rules in place for your trading. And this is a really tough one for me to say because I'm a habitual rule breaker in terms of I set trading rules for myself and then I break them.
Right.
The 3 rules I usually give to my students, max loss per trade,
Mhm.
max loss per day. And if you have 3 losers in a row, that's 3 strikes, you're out and you're done for the day.
Right.
And you have to shut off the computer and walk away. Now, I'll preface this, or well, it's not preface now, but I'll add to this that if you're a beginner trader, it's okay during your first 3 months to trade a lot and to trade 6 hours a day because you need experience. You need to just trade and trade and trade. If you only trade twice a day as someone who's brand new, it's going to take you so much longer to accumulate experience.
Right.
But from the point where you're like, I'm treating this like real money, I'm getting ready to trade with real money, or I already am trading with real money, that's when you need these 3 rules. But, here's the issue that I have of following the rules. So is there ever a time where it's okay to break the rules? What's your thought on rule breaking?
No, it's
Yeah.
not. And in fact, I would say, if you break your rules,
Yeah.
the worst thing that can happen
Mm-hmm.
is that it actually pays off.
Yeah.
Because then you're actually learning a whole different rule that's a subconscious rule that
Yeah.
basically says these rules really aren't important.
Yeah.
But that's usually not what pays off long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rules are there for a reason.
Yeah. What's interesting is I have pretty consistent reinforcement of the rule to not trade large cap stocks. When I trade them, I lose money. So I don't trade them anymore.
Right.
And Mike has the same rule with low price stocks. He doesn't trade them anymore because he doesn't want to lose money.
Right.
But trading past my max loss, just last week I had 3 days where I traded past my max loss. On 2 of the days I lost money. And on the third day, I made $9,000.
Right.
And so, it's really hard to pat yourself on the back when you are getting a win as a result of breaking a rule.
Right.
My challenge, I think, is twofold. The first is that when I hit my max loss in the first 2 minutes of the day, I feel an obligation to keep trading for my students.
Right.
Because I feel like there may very legitimately still be good opportunities in the day. And I feel bad that I'm knocking myself out, and I'm done.
Right.
And of course I could just sort of be a side commentator, but it's not really the same because I don't have skin in the game. And so I'm like, well, I should keep trading. And so one of the things that I've done for myself is created a set of rules about how aggressively I trade in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
So I really try to prevent, throwing the game 2 minutes in. The worst thing is getting a positive reinforcement for a negative behavior.
Exactly.
It really is. And your best bet is to create these rules and to stick with them. And the easiest way to prevent yourself from FOMO is to shut it off and walk away.
Right.
And that's what I would like to do sometimes at 9:32, and I don't do it because I feel an obligation to stay around. So rule number 1, mindfulness. Rule number 2, or tip number 2 is to have rules. And then why don't you take it with number 3 on meditation?
Right. So, the third one I would say is practicing some form of meditation on a regular basis. So meditation is the thing that leads to greater mindfulness.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about, another one of my favorite writers, Pema Chodron, talks about that meditation is not about trying to perfect ourselves in some way. It's actually about befriending who we already are.
Hmm.
You know?
That acceptance is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, so turning towards ourselves with loving kindness, compassion, acceptance, and then staying there.
Mm-hmm.
As we notice all that arises within us. Some days I sit down to meditate and, it's totally calm.
Mm-hmm.
Some days I sit down to meditate and it's a raging storm.
Yeah. Racing thoughts.
Exactly.
Can't stop them. They're just
Right.
crazy. Yeah.
So in turning towards those with some kindness, some understanding, acceptance,
Mhm.
compassion,
Yeah.
and then going back to, hey, what is this?
Yep. And for those of you guys who are Warrior Pro students, Ted does guided meditations
Mhm.
for all of our students. So you can check those out. We have them archived and recorded, but they're
Right.
also happening several times a week.
Right.
So one of the things for me with meditation is that it's always a bit of a struggle for me. It's not something that comes naturally or that I particularly even enjoy doing. And that's one of the reasons I keep doing it, is because I'm trying to condition myself to become comfortable with discomfort.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
as a trader, we often have to be uncomfortable. We have to do things that aren't easy, that don't feel good.
Right.
And when you, for instance, have a red trade and you're down $1,500 and $2,000 is your max loss, you know that what you should do is sell it. And that's a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of emotional willpower to press that sell button, because what you naturally want to do is just go ahead and hold it and see if maybe it turns around.
Right.
And so that's like sitting down and meditating and spending the whole time thinking about how you're going to redecorate your living room. You're not really meditating. You're just
Right.
giving in. You're giving in to all these thoughts. And so really conditioning yourself to become comfortable with discomfort is something that I've gotten from meditation, which is number 3, and number 4, from an exercise routine.
Right.
The exercise routine, again, for me, it's not that I don't enjoy some forms of exercise, but it's that most forms of exercise force you to get your heart pounding and sweating and feeling at least some level of discomfort.
Right.
Now that's in exchange for skiing down a hill or riding a bike, which is fun, but that discomfort is something that, for me, I feel like just makes my capacity for mental composure each day that much higher.
Exactly.
And that's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say the 5th one fifth one, that's 6. The fifth one, and this is one that I'm still kind of experimenting with, is acupuncture.
Mhm.
And this is one that I've only brought in after losing $50,000.
Right.
But I was like, you know what, nothing to better, I don't know, a better testament to this huge loss than one needle for each dollar I went into the red.
Right.
So, I look like a porcupine when I'm over at the acupuncturist, but it is, again, feeling, it's feeling discomfort
Right.
and breathing through it and having acceptance of it. And I'm really trying to work on that because I'm trying to get better myself. Even me doing this for almost 10 years, trying to get better at following my rules.
Right.
I'm trying to be a more disciplined trader. I'm trying to be a better role model for my students.
Mhm.
And, what I've learned here in this last 5% of the challenge, I really hope goes a long ways for students.
Right.
That these kind of struggles that I've had and, that they aren't for nothing. And I suppose the worst thing I could have done is gone from $992,000 down to $940 or so, which is where I dropped, and then down to $900,
Right.
and then down to $850, and $750, and $600. And there are traders who have done that type of thing.
Right.
That one loss snowballs and compounds, and they're not able to put the past behind them.
Right.
And so today, when I came into trade, I wasn't thinking about the fact that I am still red versus the beginning of this drawdown. I was trading the market I'm in. The rain philosophy. I was just trading the market I was in, and trying to really be just sort of neutral from an emotional standpoint. And the result was a positive green day, $2,600.
All right.
So, it's going to take 20 more days like it, but that's okay. This is a step in the right direction, and ultimately I'm learning something that I never would have learned if I hadn't gone through this challenge.
Right.
So I hope you guys have really enjoyed this. This has been, kind of pulling back the curtains on pretty much what sessions like us are like, where we talk about trading and kind of get into the struggles. And I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. Comments below, as always, for those of you guys that are going to watch this on YouTube or Facebook. And I'll see you guys back in the chat room for those of you guys who are members. If you're still watching, you must have really enjoyed that video. So why not subscribe and get email alerts anytime I upload new content? Remember, when you subscribe, you become a member of the Warrior Trading family.